apartment. For the first time in years, something scarier than their fury settled over me. Peace. By morning the chat was a graveyard. I brewed coffee, sat at my little table, and for the first time in forever didn't brace for the next emergency. Instead, I opened my laptop and finished severing every tether, changed passwords, removed my card from shared accounts, ended every autopayment linked to their names. Each confirmation email felt like snipping a rope that had been cutting off circulation for a decade. Later that week, I told Dr. Priya I felt both weightless and terrified. She smiled softly. Peace can feel like danger when you've only ever known war. Elias came over that night with takeout and quiet company. He didn't try to fix anything. He just sat beside me on the couch, knee against mine, anchoring me. "I'm proud of you," he said. And for the first time, I believed someone who said it. In the weeks after, my life didn't get louder, it got sharper. I walked without glancing at my phone every 5 seconds. I cooked dinner without waiting for someone else's crisis to interrupt. Slowly, the silence stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like oxygen. I learned that love without respect is just captivity in a prettier font, and boundaries aren't cruelty. They're the doorway back to yourself. If you've ever had to walk away from people you loved in order to keep breathing, drop your story below. And if this hit home, hit subscribe so you don't miss whatever comes next. My phone buzzed with a message from the people who raised me. "We need space from you. Do not reach out again." No calls, no messages, nothing. Just one icy line glowing on the screen like a flare in the dark. I stood frozen in my little apartment, the quiet heavier than any shouting match we'd ever had. And instead of pleading, instead of crumbling, I sent back the most composed reply I'd ever managed. They had no clue what that single moment would end up costing them. "Before I finish, tap the heart and tell me your city so I know who's here with me in this chaos. I'm Maeve Whitlock, and for as long as I can remember I've been the person everyone quietly handed their problems to. Like an extra jacket they assumed I could carry without checking if my arms were already full. I process payroll at a busy clinic downtown, a job that runs on accuracy and calm. Two things I've guarded like life rafts. My apartment mirrors that, warm lamps, spotless counters, receipts sorted by color in a drawer that sticks when the air gets damp. Nothing luxurious, just steady. Unsteadiness in my family has always had one meaning. I foot the bill. My mom, Linda, loves repeating, "Family takes care of family." She usually says it while lingering by the sink, dish towel twisted in her hands, letting a sigh finish the thought she won't voice. My dad, Robert, prefers a sharper angle, lectures about loyalty, obligation, how he didn't raise me to keep score with blood. When his voice gets tight, I know another expense is about to land on me. Then there's my younger sister, Nora, 3 years behind me, a lifetime ahead in volume. Growing up, she could command any room without trying. New boots, new haircut, new crisis. She nicknamed me Banker Girl, half teasing, half dagger. Always handy when rent was due or her car note came up short. Every time I tried to refuse, the whole family choir kicked in. "Don't blow this out of proportion. You know she can't manage alone. You're the dependable one." Even cousins and aunts joined the chorus. The family group chat was nonstop. Pictures, jokes, complaints until money surfaced. Then every tone sharpened, reminding me what my parents had sacrificed, how Nora needed grace, how I shouldn't create tension. It never mattered that no one knew my own numbers or the knots I tied myself into every month to keep them solvent. In all that noise, the only relative who never asked for a dime was my Uncle Grant. He owns a small moving company across town, the kind of work that leaves you with calloused hands and a clear eye for people. He never hinted, never leaned. He simply observed. I didn't realize how much that quiet presence would matter later. For years, I convinced myself this was standard. Every family assigns roles, right? Mine just cast me as the emergency fund. I told myself it wasn't personal. But every time I opened my banking app, every time I shrank my own dreams so theirs could expand, something inside me coiled tighter. Then came the night the balance finally tipped. The night that single text arrived, feeling less like communication and more like a guillotine. The days before the message had carried a strange static I couldn't name yet. Little pinpricks that should have glanced off me but instead burrowed. It began, as it often did, with Nora. She breezed into our parents' place wearing a brand new coat, tags still folded crisp in the collar, and started describing the much safer apartment she had her eye on. She never looked directly at me when she said it. She didn't need to. "You'll handle the deposit, yeah?" she asked, thumb scrolling, tone light, like asking for extra soy sauce. I said no. Not shouting, not trembling. Just a clear, rehearsed no I'd practiced in my head 100 times. Mom froze mid-dish. Dad drew a slow, disappointed breath. That was enough. The temperature in the room dropped, and suddenly I was the villain again. Nora didn't even blink. "Come on, banker girl," she grinned, like we were sharing an inside joke I'd never been let in on. "It's not that serious." I left early that night, sat in my car with the heater clicking, wondering why protecting myself felt like betrayal. The real gut punch landed 2 days later when my desk phone rang at work. I answered with my polished office voice, only to hear my parents' landlord cheerfully confirming that I'd reversed a late fee on their rent. A late fee I had zero knowledge of. He thanked me for keeping the autopay current, then casually mentioned my parents had given him my work email and schedule, so he could catch me at a convenient time. I stared at the bland office painting across from my desk until it blurred. They hadn't just spent my money, they'd walked straight into my professional life and handed out private details like flyers. I never thought I'd have to guard my own privacy from my own blood, but suddenly I wasn't sure any remained. That same evening I drove to their building. The hallway smelled of bleach and old pizza. I sat my parents on the couch I'd paid for, Nora lounging in the doorway, and spoke the sentence I'd rehearsed for years. "I deserve to know exactly what I'm funding." Mom's face turned to stone. "We feel attacked." Dad folded his arms. "Save that tone for your colleagues." Nora snorted from the hall. "Should we start leaving tips now?" It wasn't loud. It wasn't even a proper argument. It was worse, everyday cruelty delivered like habit. I left mid-sentence. The next afternoon, the group chat delivered its verdict. "We need space from you. Do not reach out again." Something inside me didn't shatter. It locked into place. Permanently. The minutes after that text felt suspended in syrup. The air itself seemed to hold me still so I could finally absorb what had happened. They weren't requesting breathing room. They were pronouncing banishment. No negotiation. No questions. Just exile. And instantly their silence poured in bright, ringing, absolute. I sat on my bed staring at the screen until it went black. Norai. Just an icy, crystalline understanding I'd never tasted before. If this was the space they demanded, I could give it to them. Completely. An hour later my phone lit up with a name I never expected. Uncle Grant. He only calls when something matters. When I answered, his voice was low and careful. "I'm over at your parents' right now," he said. "They asked me to help them pack." For a second I thought I'd misheard. "Pack what?" "Everything," he answered quietly. "Clothes, plates, pictures. They're leaving town." I shut my eyes. Of course they were. They weren't only cutting contact. They were erasing themselves from my reach, vanishing like a debt they no longer wished to acknowledge. Grant paused, then added, "I'll make sure anything with your name on it comes back to you. Don't worry." He didn't pick sides. He just handled reality. And that reality, him standing in their living room boxing up their lives, cut deeper than the text. After we hung up, I opened the drawer of color-coded receipts I'd hoarded for years. Rent, electricity, car insurance, doctor copays, streaming accounts, groceries. All the invisible cables I'd used to keep their world spinning. I told myself I kept records for my own peace of mind, but spread across the floor that night they looked like evidence. Green for shelter, yellow for power, blue for getting around, red for health, purple for the endless etc. they never thanked me for. The slips curled at the corners like they were exhausted too. I sat among them, knees drawn up, and finally let myself see the full picture. This wasn't generosity. This wasn't love. This was parasitism wearing the mask of family duty. And I had become the unseen scaffolding holding up a house that never saved a room for me. The realization didn't crush me. It unlatched something. That night Elias came by. He knocked softly once and let himself in the way people do when they already know how fragile you are. "They messaged you," he said. Not a question. He could see it in my face. I slid the phone across the coffee table. He read it, jaw tight, eyes gentle. "You didn't deserve that," he said. I didn't cry. I just breathed out like someone had finally cut a wire around my lungs. "I'm finished," I told him. Elias lowered himself to the floor beside me among the paper avalanche. "Then let's begin with one thing," he said. "Show me what you've been carrying." I handed him the first stack, green. "Shelter." He turned the pages slowly, like reading a tragic novel that suddenly made the ending make sense. The next morning I walked into Dr. Priya's office and laid everything bare. The text, the packing, the decade of invisible labor. She listened, nodded, then said the sentence that granted me permission I didn't know I'd been waiting for. "Maeve, ending financial enmeshment is not abandonment. It's oxygen." When I left her office, my pulse was steady, my hands still. I knew exactly what had to happen next. I didn't send anything dramatic that night. I slept with my phone on silent, screen down, the way you do when you're done letting it dictate your heartbeat. But when I flipped it over in the morning, the group chat was a war zone of missed messages. Nora had ignited it naturally. "Where are you? Why are you ghosting us? Mom says you're overreacting again." Then, "Fine, we'll figure it out without you." If they wanted me gone, why were they furious I wasn't answering? I scrolled back to their original decree, "Do not reach out again," and felt something settle into perfect focus. I went to the kitchen table, arranged the color-coded piles, and photographed each category. Proof of 7 years as the family's unseen spine. My fingers were rock steady. They used to tremble. Not anymore. Then I opened the group chat and sent a single, measured message. "I am respecting your request for no contact. Attached is a summary of every payment I have covered for you. All of these will cease on the dates circled. Please move the accounts and leases into your own names within 30 days. I attached the photos one by one. Send, send, send. Then I added the line I knew would strip away their last illusion. "I will of course be canceling all direct debits immediately." 2 minutes of silence. I pictured their faces as the numbers hit their screens, totals they'd never once asked to see. Then the meltdown began. "Mom, Maeve, what on earth is this supposed to mean?" "Dad, money is not family. Don't turn it into a weapon." "Nora, you're actually sick for doing this." Aunt Marla jumped in. "Cousins. Cousins partners." Typing bubbles swarmed like angry bees. "Mom, again, we meant space from your attitude, not from you." I replied once. Your exact words were, "Do not reach out again." I'm simply complying. Dad fired off a wall of text, no punctuation, pure rage. "After everything we gave you growing up, this is how you repay us. We trusted you because we thought you understood family." I left it on read. Guilt trips were background music my whole life. I knew every note. Nora pivoted. "I literally cannot move right now. I'll be in a bad neighborhood. Are you happy if I get hurt?" I stared at the screen, pulse calm. "I hope you stay safe," I wrote. "But your lifestyle is no longer my responsibility." Silence. Then the call started. "Mom, Dad, Nora," ringing out into voicemail until I switched on Do Not Disturb. They wanted tears, screaming, anything to pull me back into the script. I gave them nothing. An hour later, a private message slid in from Grant. "Dropping off a few boxes tonight. Things that technically belong to you. They never opened them." When he arrived, he carried 3 tidy cartons, jacket dusted with moving grime. "They rushed me," he said. "Told me not to waste time on anything that wasn't theirs. But I saw your name on some stuff." He set the boxes down gently. Inside, unopened bath towels, a blender still sealed, a Wi-Fi router they never bothered to install. Gifts I'd bought to make their life easier, shoved into closets, forgotten. Grant watched me take it in. "You carried way more than they ever admitted," he said. "Don't let them rewrite history now." Something twisted behind my ribs. Not pain for losing them, but sorrow for how long I'd volunteered to be invisible. After he left, the group chat detonated again. Mom, how could you let Grant see our private mess? Dad, we will never forgive this humiliation. Nora, hope you're proud you destroyed everything. I said nothing. I set the phone on the counter and poured a glass of water. Drank it slowly. 10 minutes later the tone flipped. Rage to begging, right on schedule. Mom, please don't do this, your father can't sleep. Dad, I worked my entire life, you owe me basic respect. Nora, if you cut the phone plan, how am I supposed to call for help? I answered once more. I'm no longer discussing finances. Another long hush. Then the old pattern cracked wide open like an egg hitting concrete. Nora, I just don't get why you're being so heartless all of a sudden. I typed, you told me not to contact you. I'm doing exactly that. No one responded. The quiet stretched so wide I could hear my fridge humming, footsteps overhead. Real life resurfacing. But midnight brought a second wave. Extended family piled in. Aunt Marla, we never thought you'd stoop this low, Maeve. Cousin Blair, this is drastic, you could have been kinder. Another cousin, family sacrifices, why can't you? I didn't argue. I simply uploaded a clean PDF. Budget templates, rental assistance numbers, utility customer service lines. At the bottom I wrote, you are capable. You always were. Nothing followed. Just a stillness so profound it felt like stepping out of a hurricane into a library. At 2:13 a.m., one last private message from Mom. If you go through with this, you are dead to me. I looked at those words for a long time. Not because they wounded me, because they didn't. I'm sorry you feel that way, I replied, then placed the phone face down. In the dark of my...
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.